Boom, boom. Every election season, candidates ask for your vote. Tonight, we are asking them to earn it because local elections aren't, about the national headlines, all the big stories that you hear every day. They're about the roads we drive on. They're about the taxes we pay, the communities we call home, and the future that we're trying to build together. Tonight, we are talking with David Dillie about his campaign, his vision for District 161, and why he believes voters should choose a different direction.
Welcome
Ooh.
back to this episode of the Market Sip. My name is Patrick Don from EXP Realty, part of the John Scrivener, joined by my co-host and partner in crime, Brandon Giebler from Next Move Real Estate. And of course, we got David Dillie here. What's up, buddy? How you doing? Thank you for coming on.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's good to see y'all again. I'm glad you guys brought me back, and I can't wait to see what we're talking about tonight.
Well, I can
Yes.
tell you, I enjoyed the little startup for your campaign this Saturday.
Yeah, it was good.
If you missed out on a bunch of Port Wentworth people, and that was awesome. But of course, our show is about you, the audience. You get the opportunity to ask David any question you want, of course, within reason. We don't want any cursing and stuff, but you can ask him whatever you want, and he can answer right here on the show. And then Brandon, of course, I'm going to pull David off here real quick and bring him back on. But the other day I was driving down the street, and I saw this beautiful house. I was like, man, I wonder how much that house cost. I drove home, went to my computer, looked it up, and was like, man, that's awesome. But if you're not a real estate agent and you're looking for a house, what should you do first?
You should go scan those codes.
Scan the codes right there. If you're looking to buy, sell, you're looking just to stay up to date on the market, that is what we do here, of course, on this show. You can ask us questions, too, if you really want to about the real estate market and all that stuff. But, of course, if you just want to ask us privately, hit them codes, give us a call. We'd love to help you out. So, Brandon, I'm super excited about bringing David on because we had him on before, and I'm really excited to have him on again. What do you think, bud?
Yeah, I mean the stats. If you want to roll the stats, we still got stats too. We should put them in there. But I'm excited. It's been about 2 months, so we're excited to see kind of what's going on with him. So let's go ahead and bring him on in. Scan the codes first,
Bring
though.
him on in.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Hey, David, how are you? How's everything going?
Oh, it's going good. It's going good. It's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. A lot's happening. We won the primary, of course. That was great. We had really good turnout for us, so I'm excited about that. I'm excited what we're going to keep doing around here. Keep showing up, keep being vocal, and take it home in November.
Sounds like a plan. So since it's been 2 months ago, so what's changed for you? Is there anything new?
Not a whole lot. I do competitions for the state of Georgia, so I compete in a lot of stuff. So I got to go travel a little bit, represent my college. I go to Savannah Tech, so I'm a college student. This will be my second degree I'm earning, so that was a lot of fun. Winning the primary was a great night, meeting candidates, traveling to the Capitol, trying to keep busy, understand what's going on around here, understand what's going on at the state level, because sometimes, you kind of forget about that in the background. But that's our job to let you guys know what's going on.
Nice, nice. We have some people in the chat. So, hello, Joshua. Okay, y'all. Hey, y'all. Hey, y'all. And then Pam. Is it Pam Law? She said, "Go, David." Got some supporters on here. That's good.
All right. So, like I said, Dave, we're about to get a little bit deeper into your differences between you and Bill, because I think that's really the biggest point going on right here. Because I met you, you're a very, very intelligent, nice dude. But let's see what the difference between you and Bill is. So, David, Bill Hitchens has represented this district since 2013.
Yep.
He has seniority relationships at the Capitol, extensive public service experience, and influence over public safety appropriation. You're asking voters to give all of that up for a first-time candidate. What specifically would 161 gain by electing you, and that would it be by electing you, and how would that outweigh having the influence that Bill has?
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Bill has been there for quite a long time. Nobody can take that away from him. Of course, he was GSP, his Marine service. He has a great record. There's no doubt about it. I can't argue against it. That's something that he's done. A bigger issue that we're talking when it comes to him, though, at the end of the day, and I've heard this from constituents all across my district, is it's one thing, so I'm looking for. It's one thing to be, the elected representative, but I feel as though he's failing in actually representing us. Our district's looking for newer voices, and he's kind of played the old game where, we did an article about a month ago, the Savannah News article. I don't know if you have a chance to read it, and we kind of joked about it. I said, I'm going to guess every word for word he's going to say, because it's the same spiel. He's the same spiel he's had since 2013. It's the exact same thing. Let's put more into GSP. Let's try to work on 21. This year he did change it. This year he did bring his seniority into it. So that was something he didn't really do in the past. This year he did like, I'm a senior member. I can get more done. But when you look through his bill track, there's nothing of interest. He did a couple, honoring people, respecting people, recognizing officers, stuff like that's fine. But when we're looking at the third fastest growing district, you're not passing anything that's helpful. No expansions to 21. A big issue in Fort Wentworth, data centers. You're not really being vocal in your community, and the community is kind of getting tired of it. And that's something I see every week when I'm meeting with constituents, emails, phone calls, that has been very, very vocal, that he's just gotten comfortable, that he knows no matter what he does, he doesn't have to no longer show up for our constituents. And it isn't fair to us. It isn't fair to my people. And that's something that I would say is really different between us. I kind of made a joke, the other day where I was saying Bill Hitchens kind of reminds me of a Walmart greeter. I don't know if you remember when you went to Walmart and you used to get one of those little, the old man who sits there and hands you the sticker. That's kind of what he is. He shows up to events, he waves his hand, he hands you a sticker, and that's it. You don't need anything else from him. He smiles, he waves, he's gone. And I feel as though my constituents are tired of it. They're tired of just being left behind. They're tired of, sure, you could be a senior member, but it doesn't matter if you have zero, if you're not using your influence to actually help us.
Facts. Oh, facts. We got to backtrack a little bit. We have a comment. What type of competitions do you do?
Oh, yeah. So I compete in different little, so I've done like entrepreneurship competitions, where you'll bring a business, you'll like concept of business design, and you basically compete against people. First, you compete against students across Georgia, and then you get to travel. So I did plumbing, and I've also done, so I did plumbing competition, and then I also did a entrepreneurship competition, community service. So a lot of the community service projects that I do, you're actually able to submit those and, present them in front of judges. Be like, look, here's the good thing our school did. Here's the good thing that I've done, whether it was, like I said, a lot of people know I'm a Foster Chamber of Commerce board member, so I do a lot of work there. But this year we did it to a retirement home and decorated their doors full of Christmas stuff. So, we just try to be, we try to do like community stuff. So there's all sorts of little competitions you can do.
Yeah. We also had a comment. Savannah Tech, love their kitchen on Bay Street.
Oh yeah.
Hey, if you don't know, man, they're running their lunch special this week with Chef Colby Todd. If you watch our other side of the Nooks and Crannies, show up, support Savannah Tech. It's all your chefs here in the Savannah area. So definitely show up.
We also have another one asking. He's been unopposed, correct? It's hard to say someone is the best choice when they've not had a choice, correct?
Yeah, no, that's not wrong at all. The last time he was challenged was in 2022, so that was the last time. That was Mrs. Barbie. She challenged him. Sadly, she didn't end up winning, but so yeah, no, he didn't have a challenger in 24. Now I'm here in 26. So
okay, and so we got a poll up here, and I want to know from you guys in the chat, of course, and then. Of course, David, you can vote as well. You have power on this chat, too. So,
you're allowed to vote.
What is more important? What matters more? Experience, number one, or a fresh perspective, number two? Put it in the chat. Number one for experience, number two for fresh perspective. What is more important? As we see the world the way it is right now, it seems like all these people with experience has been experiencing money in their pockets, instead of experiencing for the people that really matter. So put it in the chat. I'm going to put, this was tough.
I know. Oh.
This was tough. This one is tough.
It's like both, but how can it be both?
How can it be both, but not both? So is it more important if there's experience, but you never see the guy, or is it a fresh perspective, but he's going to be fighting for you? That's really the question.
Well, maybe they have experience in certain aspects, but not the.
Well, DC Apps, if you feel like it's a fresh perspective, put the 2 down there. Ooh, man, I'm going to have to hold off to hear what David says. David, you're going to inform my opinion on this poll.
All right. That's the goal here. Hopefully, I can earn your vote. There we go.
Hold off a second on my vote here. Okay, so let's. Brandon, you had some questions for the chat, didn't you?
No.
Okay, all right, my bad. We're all out of whack.
Other
My
than
bad.
cool.
All right, so here we go. Got the next question for you. You have described yourself as an alternative to career politics.
Yeah.
But voters need more than a biography contrast. Name one vote, policy decision, or failure to act by Bill Hitchens that you believe has harmed District 161, and tell us exactly what you would have done differently.
So this is going to be kind of a two-parter. I'll talk about a bill that he, of course, supported back in 24, but I'll also talk about something that was really interesting. So, as a candidate, you have to look into your position. That's the whole point. You got to research and study. And one of the things I found hilarious, he co-sponsors a lot of bills, but there's one thing that was very clear. Every single time, without a doubt, every bill he sponsored, we talked about a second ago, was really not that helpful. He sponsored about 7 bills. That was his sponsor. It was his bill. It's what he did. And there was nothing I said there and said, that's going to help the constituents of my district. There was a little thing for Rankin. There was a little thing for Chatham. And then the rest of it was just kind of filler stuff that makes everybody slice that smile, feel good, yeah. But that's about it. And that's something that I feel like he's done his part. Like I said, we're the 3rd fastest growing district, but you're not doing anything. You know what I mean? But a bill that I would say that a lot of people talk about, especially in our district, number one concern is the data centers. He voted in favor of the sales tax for data centers. And that's something that we are now feeling now. Georgians are feeling now in our state. And of course, I would have supported that at the end of the day. One of the also things I would have made very, very clear was, removing any local exemptions they can get. So if it's a tax exemption, they're not, a couple of them are getting land deals. That's not happening. You're getting no land deals from our state or cities or counties, removing any benefits that they can get, and they have to pay for everything themselves. You want to hook up power, you're paying for your power. You want to hook up water, you're paying for the pipe in the ground. You want to hook up a road, you're building for the road. You are putting every single investment, because these things aren't making money for us. We're giving them money and, maybe hoping for a return that we're never going to get, and the taxpayers we're going to end up eating. So at the end of the day, just cut it. It's as easy as that. This is not going to work for us. It's clearly not working for us. It's going to continue not working for us, and you're still voting in favor of it. That's what's one thing that really, drives me crazy.
Oh, that makes sense. So apparently we asked a terrible question. We asked a terrible question. I was going to put more options in there. I thought we should have put more options, but
this is what the race is about.
Right. Exactly.
Isn't it?
Right. But Ivy said David has experience in the community build, and community build does not.
Yeah, that's one thing I thought. So, when we talk about that, as I've been meeting constituents, whether it's through emails, phone numbers, or just, different meetings, one of the things that has been very, very clear, and sorry, Bill, but this is the truth here, you refer people to other people. And what I'm saying is I've had multiple people saying, oh, I had this issue, I brought it up to Bill. Oh, well, why don't you talk to John Burns about it? Oh, well, go talk to Edna Jackson about it. Oh, well, go talk to... and I'm just like, wait, he referred you to other state representatives instead of dealing with the issue yourself. I understand some issues are uncomfortable. I understand it's not your expertise. I understand that, oh, this isn't my area. This isn't my thing. This isn't my board. But that's not your job. Your job is not to refer them. Your job is to sit there, take it, and bring it to those people and discuss, hey, my constituents had a complaint about this. You're on this board. Can you help? Instead, you're saying, well, go talk to them. They're not your representative. You're their representative. And so that's something I thought was really, really interesting. And like I said, it was one thing when I heard it once or twice, but it's like I've heard about close to maybe 10 times now where they're saying he just refers them to other state representatives. Talk to Derek Mallow, talk to, what's his name? Billy Hickman. He just refers them to other folks, and that just isn't fair.
Now, you know what? In the real estate game, you get a referral fee for some of that referrals. It's pretty good. We call that mailbox money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was thinking. You made me think about my mother-in-law. She's a delegator. You tell her to do a task, and she's like, "I got you," and then she goes to tell one of the kids to do it. I relate. So everyone said not a good question, but I told him to ask a better question, but Crystal said, "Hey, y'all." And then Ryan said, "David is the obvious choice for this election." You getting some love over here. Okay, we got a real question. So, how do you feel about abortion rights in Georgia? We often don't touch that subject, but it's a real one that matters to a large portion of voting constituents. Do women have a choice or the government?
Ooh, I see. These are the questions I would like. I said I want the tough ones. If you have more tough ones, don't be afraid to ask. Oh, y'all, this is the one I always fight myself on all the time, y'all. It's a tough one for me. I sit there arguing myself every single day. But one of the things, I've gotten experience in as a foster care Chamber of Commerce member, I have 30 foster cousins. I've seen how the system works, and I'm learning more about here what goes on Savannah. And if I remember correctly, and I'll get to, I'm going to do the side point to get to the main point, was there's 300 foster youth here in Savannah, and I think they have 6 caseworkers for them. Like, it is such a bad ratio, but that's a problem. We don't invest in, and so one of the things that I've made very, very clear in this campaign, everyone asked my opinion about abortion. I don't like abortion. I hope we can never have to have abortions. But we also need to talk, we can say we can ban it, we can keep it, but I'm more about preventing it. And that's one of the things I made very, very clear in this campaign is preventing abortion. What do we have to do? Well, one of the major reasons is women can't afford to have a baby. So, and like I said, this is something, I wish I knew a little bit more about. But I'll just tell you how I feel about it. If we're going to talk about, I have friends of mine who just got birth, and they're telling me, well, it's $20,000 hospital bill. And it's like $20,000 to have a kid. I mean, and like I said, people said they've spent more. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, I don't know if I would have a child for $20,000. But this is a serious issue that my generation is facing. And so, trying to find ways we can cut, childbirth, at least in half, you know what I mean? Same thing with trying to increase the minimum wage so people can afford to have kids. What can we do more, invest more in the foster care system so more mothers that may end up giving that birth can put them towards and not feel like their kid's just going to get abandoned, left behind. We talk about Rick Jackson. That was a story. I was a foster youth, blah, blah. And, whoever ends up getting elected, that's something I'm very, very passionate about as foster youth coming from the foster family. And so for me, it's just all about prevention. What can we do to prevent it? What's happening? What's going on? And at the end of the day, that's really what I care about is preventing that from happening. But we have to get to solving the problem. We can't just either legalize it or stop it. I just want to prevent it.
I feel like that's a tough cookie. That one's always a hard one.
Yeah.
Whenever I feel bad about that one.
No, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. No. Like I said, they are fair. You know what I mean? As a man, I'm not going to lie and sit here and pretend I knew everything about, women's autonomy. I need to understand more. I've heard horrific stories about women who've had abortion. I've heard stories where when they did get it, they were able to find, able to get off of drugs. And I've heard from both ends, but I understand that there's definitely a line. There's a line somewhere. And we just need to come together and figure out where this line is, as Georgians, as people, and even as a representative. I eventually will, I know next year this will come back up. And that's something at that moment I need to understand more. I need to learn more. And when I vote, I need to make sure I vote what's best for my district.
Amen to that. And we want to know from you guys in the chat, what is the biggest challenge that you're facing in District 161 today? Put it in the chat. Let's see what we can do about it.
Please put it in the chat. We want to know what you feel like. And I'll tell you, the abortion thing is difficult, right? Especially when we have, and not to say this issue is not important, but there's a ton of issues out there that have to be addressed, and they're all at the same time. And unfortunately, nobody has the bandwidth for all of it at the same time. So, I know it's difficult to understand every issue to its fullest extent, especially when, God, there's like so much stuff that is going on at the same time. So I understand if you don't know everything, that makes a lot of sense. But of course I know.
Yeah, like I said, I just want to make sure, these mothers can't afford having this, the kid. And like I said, at the end of the day, it's also about safety. It's also about the mother's health. If it is their choice. I just want to do everything I can to prevent it from happening, and that like I said, it's a tough stance to take, but I really want to do everything I can to prevent it from happening.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna change up the actually kind of we'll see if it kind of skates the same line, but here we go. So your campaign talks about fair wages, equitable growth, sustainable development, and smart infrastructure. I hear that smart word again. I've heard that from the mayor of Pooler too. Those phrases sound appealing, but they are also broad. Give us one specific piece of legislation you would introduce or support during your first year, and explain what it would do, how much it would cost, and how Georgia would pay for it.
So one of the things that really, back to kind of referring back to like the data center issue, but over here, data centers, of course, are discussion. We just haven't seen it come on our side of town yet, but of course, all across Georgia. But for us, it's warehouses. That has been clearance down. We see them everywhere. They're popping up. That was something I was kind of listening about today, was they were talking about the port expanding. Right now they're moving 5 million containers a year. I guess by 2030, they want to move 8 million containers a year. And that's coming here. They don't want to have to put them 2 hours away. They got to put them somewhere. And so, I've heard like, South Carolina's thinking about doing some investing and trying to, take some offload for us. But at the end of the day, it's right there. I could walk to it, and so that's something that one of the bills I really want to propose is stuff like that. When it does get built, it doesn't become the taxpayer's burden. It does come out of you want to build a warehouse, back to what I said before, you're paying for building it. We're not paying for, you want to connect to the road, that's your payment. You want to connect it, you want to get a traffic light for it, that's your payment. The whole point is to get them to pay for it. One of the bills I really would want to support is, make sure they pay their fair share. If warehouse, factory, data center, no matter what it is, if we know it's going to create traffic, you're paying for the studies. Not one single dollar is coming out of taxpayer dollars for your investment. And that's something that I've made very, very clear that I really want to support behind. I'm just tired of us always footing the bill for something. I understand, times, they have to take loans out of the government. They can get better bonds, they can get better interest rates. Okay, we can talk about that. But, that's the city's decision. Counties is not a whole lot I can do on the state level. But a lot of it needs to come out of your paycheck and not ours.
Well, just because it gives the investors a better interest rate because the city does it out of their because of the backing of the city doesn't make it the right decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. You know what I'm saying? So, I agree with you on that. We got the chats blowing up over here, Brandon.
I was like, my investors get a terrible rate. I don't know about yours. So we have a message from Julia. So how will you balance the push for reasonable growth with the environmental strain that new development places on coastal infrastructure?
So that's one of the bills that Bill actually supported, where they were talking about that. I think, don't quote me the exact year. I think it was 22. It was 22 or 2020, but they put a bill that basically allowed them to build plants, warehouses, because they were running into this issue. And he said yes to the bill that allowed them to put right next to the ocean. And so that's something that I would love to strip right back out. So we're not, dumping. And then people for Wentworth have said, hey, our water's kind of nasty, and like I've gone fishing over there. I'm like, yeah, this is a little, it looks gross over there. And of course,
we get boil warnings all the time.
Yeah. And that's, due to them building these manufacturing plants right next to our coast, right next to the Savannah River, because that's a bill that he supported. And that, like I said, and now I'm hearing more and more about it. People talking about the paper mill, the sugar mill. They've had their issues over there as well. This is something that I've definitely heard before from constituents. One of the really big bills that I want to push is called the Clean Water and Trash Act. There it is, Clean Water and Trash Act. So I couldn't remember off the top of my head. The Clean Water and Trash Act. So what it does, it goes to the DNR. So someone asked what committee I'd be interested in. I really want to be in the DNR committee. Of course, they'll assign you to bit different ones. I imagine, because we're next to Gulfstream's my district, they'll put me in aviation. They're going to put me wherever they see fit. Usually as freshman, I kind of looked at Bill and what he get put on first, and it was like kind of what I expected to be, And so DNR is one I really, really want to get on because I want to use DNR. I want to put that in my Clean Water and Waterway Act. And what it does is they'll go out to each county. They're going to test your water. They're going to look at your forests. They're going to walk through your parks, your towns, your canals. They're going to go through everything, like full on inspection. We're testing stuff. We're doing it. We're still looking at how much that's going to cost. But what they're going to do is they'll go in there and they're going to test everything, look at everything, and then they're going to come back to the state and they go, hey, because a lot of times we kind of get those, well, it's okay. It's within reason. It's within numbers. And that's kind of how we get reported. And I'm like, well, no, the people want to see transparency. What's in our water? We said it's a safe amount. No, I want I want the state to come in there and research and look into it and grade your county. So, hey, look, overall, let's say Chatham County got a B. All right. So you got an A for trash.
That's what I'm talking about. Like a restaurant.
Yeah. No, so like you said, you're going through. So like, we're going to test your water. Hey, your water was kind of grody. We found this on it. Your water gets a B. Right. For Port Wentworth, a lot of people want us to do air quality checks. So that's something I'm trying to figure out how to write into the bill where we can also check air. That's a little more sciencey than I know, But that's the DNR. But it's just testing our air, testing the water, testing everything, and then letting the people. And they're like, well, how are you going to punish the county? Say a county gets an F. They're just gross. There's sewage everywhere. And I said, well, one, the county is already going to look bad for having a failing grade. Say Port Wentworth, Chatham County gets a C. Developers are going to look at that and go, well, is this worth working in? Is this worth investing in new houses in? Is this worth, putting our money? That's something that people are going to look at. And a lot of these counties are going to go, oh my gosh, we're losing, we need to clean our act up. And that's holding them accountable, but at the same time, letting residents see what's actually going on. And that's
what do you think the likelihood of that happening is?
Getting
to Georgia to expose all of the neglect. You think that's a good, like a good?
Oh no, it's gonna take. It's definitely gonna take me some negotiating. Definitely, going up there and I don't think I'll have the hardest time getting it through a committee, but I know it would be tough on the floor. Because you're gonna have to ask all these people come from all across the city. Remember, I have to work with 179 other people, and I had to convince at least 91 to say yes, this is a good idea. So it's definitely not the easiest thing in the world. It's going to take time. I always say when you first get elected, kind of joke I heard is you get one bill that's yours. This is your bill that you can co-sponsor a bunch of other bills, right? They can get you, you can work together, kind of sneak some stuff in there. You can get co-sponsorships a lot. But, one of the biggest things, your bill, you kind of get one. And this is the one I really, really want to fight for. Of course, we want to talk about increased minimum wage. We want to talk about other stuff going on. But mine is the Clean Waterway and Trash Act bill. I think this really could help Georgia. It could let us know what's going on. It can let even the people of Port Wentworth, the people of Rankin, a lot of people talk about the cancer rates increasing in our district, because a lot of people use groundwater. The water is starting to test. There's a lot going on, and we need this transparency.
Amen to that. Amen to that. So guess what? I guess I asked a better question. So the biggest challenges facing the district, we got property taxes, development, industrial authority, Medicaid cuts, grocery taxes, SPLOST taxes, multiple, poor wages, can't afford daycare. I'm sure there are much more. Sounds like everybody.
Real quickly, I'll answer this in just a second. Somebody asked a really quick question before we change the topic for a second. They asked, well, how would this help rural counties? As it feels like it would hurt them. So part of this bill, I forgot to mention it.
Hold on, Dave. What
they had asked? They said, but wouldn't that be counterproductive? It was the okay person. If the rural county pours, what would the state help with that county? It would be tough. Yeah, that one. Yeah. So one of the parts in this bill is also giving funding to them. So of course, hey, you have 6 months. Here's a couple of grants either nonprofits could apply for to help clean up your counties, or the counties themselves could apply for state grants to be able to get little crews, being able to use getting cleanup truck, whatever it might take your county to get it done. This isn't definitely of course the punishment's one part of it, yes, but at the same time we don't want to just and like I said, I should clarify that a little bit more. We will make sure these counties can get the help to clean up their act, to clean up their forest, to clean up, because like I said, it's costing us millions of dollars to keep these waterways clean. It's costing $1 million to keep the forest clean, to go through there. And I'm like, no, let's just know that's going on. Let's target it, let's just get it done. Save us in the long run.
I think your point on that is, and the one thing, and I would say, is it's got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't start by giving them money to fix a problem we don't know about, right? You got to understand the problem, and that's kind of what we're aiming at for this data center thing. Is, hey, you know what? I believe you guys want to do the right thing. I don't think that anybody, the city council people in Fort Worth, are trying to destroy our city. Well, let's just do the study and prove it, right? I mean, is that too much to ask? And that's kind of the same thing you're trying to do. Let's prove that these waterways are, messed up. Now, I don't know that now this is conspiracy theory land, so I'm not going to get too much into it, but I don't know that I don't think the data center lobby is going to want to see that stuff. So,
no, for sure, yeah.
Right. So let's bring up this question again, and Brandon started on this. So property taxes, development and industry authority, Medicare cuts, groceries, taxes, SPLOST taxes, poor wages, can't afford daycare. I'm sure there's much more. Sounds like everybody's feeling the same. So so this is your constituent here.
Yeah.
We're bringing this to you. What do you say to her?
Oh, this happens all the time where it is a bunch of stuff. You know what I mean? I've definitely had constituents ask me 8 questions. I'm like sitting here having to go through each one. Today, of course, they were arguing back on Saturday about property taxes, and we've had a long discussion about that. I know at Effingham, that's been, Paul Warmer talks a little more about data centers. I've heard a little bit about property tax, but on my other side, we're talking about Rincon and Guyton, property taxes is number one. One of the things we're trying to figure out, and like I said, the Democrats today proposed a bill. I haven't been able to read through it yet. That's supposed to help a little bit with that. Of course, they're trying to remove it. I've heard discussions. Let's just get rid of it. There's been a huge argument about that in the last couple of days. That we could spend an hour on that. So, but it's definitely, that one gets a little black and white. And so that one, that's just a hot mess in itself. And it's just a lot. It's just a lot. Trying to understand it, research it all, watch these committees, trying to figure out. At the end of the day, they want to try to help the homeowners. I'm more for like slashing it in half. I've also heard of a couple proposals of trying to do it based on the net worth of your house. So if your house is worth more than $1 million, you obviously can afford it. Versus if your house is worth less than $200,000, maybe we can get rid of it. So there's a lot of back and forth, and we'll see that as it comes along. I think this is something that probably will get decided. But at the end of the day, where people also need to realize about this bill is it doesn't immediately start. You still have to vote on it. So even if they're saying, yes, we're going to slash property taxes, it's done. It will not be on your ballot until 28. So you'll still be paying property taxes the next years. It's kind of like the little trick of the trade here, where they're like, oh, well, we're going to cut your property taxes. Kind of.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah. Well, in 28, if your county decides that it's worth to putting the sales tax and stuff, so it's kind of a trick. That's something where I say you're not being fully transparent. You're not you're saying we're just trying to cut it and Democrats are awful. And it's like, no, you're not actually doing it until way later. And then it's only if it passes. So that's just not the right way to handle it.
Well, my question to you is, like, if we're cutting property taxes, how are we paying for schools, cops, firefighters?
Oh yeah, no, that's what we talked about. I've talked to the Democrats, like we have to literally increase every other freaking tax. Like, of course, like we'll do the sales tax of 1%. In Chatham, that might work because we have Savannah, we have tourism. But now, we go to the other side. We're talking about Valdosta. We're talking about Columbus, Georgia, where these are all really rural parts of Georgia, where the only money they really get is from property taxes. You know what I mean? And so that become a huge discussion.
I went to school in Valdosta, so I get what you're saying. I get it. So we have another question in the chat. So what specific actions will you take to protect small-scale agricultural operations such as local homesteads, managing livestock, and its apiaries?
I love this question. I actually have a bill for this one. I'm going to try to get this one co-sponsored. So what I really, really love about this bill is I was looking through Georgia agriculture zoning, right? They have like 8 different agriculture zonings. But I was like, but there's not one that just says homestead, and that's something I really wanted to offer these counties was, okay, cool. We can cut agriculture. We can cut this. We can say agriculture with housing. Like I said, they've got like 8 different ones. And I said, why don't we just have one for homestead? Properties that are 1 to 10 acre sizes that, you can even, like I said, 1 to 10 acres, boom, that's your homestead property, and that can be easier for counties to zone out. Oh, we want to build more houses, but, a lot of residents like, well, we want more, we want people here. Some don't, some do. But, some people rural areas are like, well, we want this, but we don't want huge developments, or we don't want apartments, or if we do, it can get a little complicated. So I want kind of a homestead property that they can say, hey, these 500 acres are homestead properties. They can build 1 to 10 acre lots. Developers are still happy because they get to build what they want to build, and the new homeowners get to expand. And of course, I love going to the local, livestock auction. I drive out, well, I would say local. It's an hour away, but I go to Matador livestock auction, and, we're slowly seeing small drops in it. And that's because we're not getting a lot of homesteads. A lot of people aren't doing small agriculture anymore. And, you never know what's going to end up happening. So I really want to try to make that more productive. So I'm hoping with more agriculture zoning, especially homestead zoning, I think that's something we could do. And even Effingham, where they could, oh, we want to build all these houses, then do homestead zoning. So people can grow. People can still have their, if they choose, just build a house and keep the forest, that's up to you. But I think homestead zoning could definitely help, and help my generation who wants to do stuff like that. Because a big issue that we run into, and this is something we have to work with, what's it called? I can't remember the top of my head. Sorry, I'm trying to remember. You can get agriculture loans, but it's really, really difficult. So I'm hoping to see if we can find a way to actually get same kind of deal with the agriculture zone, and same thing with the homestead property. So you could get an agriculture loan and do homestead, because you are doing agriculture just on a smaller scale. I'm still putting that one together. But I think that'd be a good idea to try to get more. And I think you guys would enjoy too. Hey, you guys want to buy a homestead, versus you want to live next to 20 other people? You guys might even see better, work in y'all's favor too.
As long as you don't sell it off to a data center, we're fine.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
Don't do that. So we have another one in the chat. So what is your plan and goal with a minimum wage and the extreme prices we are facing today?
One thing that I've heard a lot is, oh, well, we give a lot of these companies breaks. We pay a lot of their stuff, and they're still not bringing these prices down. They know they can increase it. They can just blame the government. That's as easy as can be, and it just isn't fair to us. And I always say, we see everything go in price. We've seen eggs go up in price, meat go up. I did my thing. I didn't realize I was going to spend $40, to get only a few pounds of burger, patty meat. I was like, oh my gosh, when the heck? I just didn't realize it at the time. My brain just didn't wire it, because I've been eating so much chicken. My doctor wants me to eat more chicken, so I haven't really looked at meat in a second. I've heard the beef prices were going up, but I just hadn't realized the extent, and that's my fault. I go to chicken. I try to get turkey, try to eat more lean. But I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And one of the proposals I want to do, and like I said, it depends if we flip the house or not. That's a big discussion. And that's something that we definitely talk about a little later, is whether or not we flip the house or not. If we flip the house, I know Democrats' goal is to get it to 15. But for me, my goal is to get it to 10. Everyone's like, why $10? If we don't end up flipping the house, or it ends up being really, really close, it's going to end up being, difficult there. And most companies are, everybody tells me, oh, well, if you increase it, it can hurt small businesses. Most small businesses pay more than $10 an hour. Right now, it's about getting the corporations that are being greedy. You've got your Walmarts, you've got your Dollar Generals in these rural districts. You've got, like I said, it's not so much that I want to punish, small businesses. Small businesses are paying more. I've at least never heard somebody working on a small business say, I'm making $7.25. I've heard people at Dollar General, Walmart going, they're paying me minimum wage, $7.25. I've heard that. I've heard, for fast food restaurants, same thing. Just doing it's $10. If you work a full 10-hour day, you should be able to earn $100. No matter what. I work 2 hours and I better get $100. You know what I mean? When I did handyman stuff, at least 10. If I'm working 10 hours, I should be able to at least get $100. And I think that's a fair thing to say. And I think it's something I can convince Republicans to agree with.
What do you think the likelihood of, you say swapping, flipping the house? What do you think the likelihood of that is? I mean, I don't know that is it likely or not?
It is. We're definitely working towards that goal. Luckily, it's a great organization. Almost majority of Republicans across the state are being challenged. So the odds are in our favor, but it's also, one of the things we kind of talk about as Democrats, and I wouldn't get a whole lot into it, but we also talk about our higher tickets. We can do our best to draw out crowds. We can do our best to not get people excited, but do bigger ticket items help us at the end of the day. And that's something that we're trying to, figure out too, as we're learning how people are liking these candidates, seeing what's going on. For me, my job is to bring better representation to my district. If we get to 91, it makes it a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, my job is to represent y'all. My job is to be here for you guys, fight for you guys at county commission meetings, fight for you guys at city council meetings. You tell me, hey, Dillie, I know you're up there. We've got this big issue. Pooler's about to, put 20 data centers. Guess where I'm going to be? Driving right back down the next day, or if I got to pay $200 and go fly back down, go yell real quickly and then fly back up and, get back to 7. If that's what it takes, that's what it's going to take. But you need somebody, I hate to say, you need somebody younger that's got the energy and that's willing to do it. Like I said, I hate to talk about my opponent's age, but he's 80 years old. I mean, we're definitely two different opposite sides of this, race. And that's something that I think, a lot of people are starting to realize, I understand age comes with wisdom, and we talked about, experience, but when you no longer have the energy to represent, I think it's okay to retire.
You're making a compelling argument over fresh perspective, over experience. I love it. All right, so I'm going to hit the chat here, and then I'm going to another question. So, SPLOST isn't a bad thing, okay? However, Medicare is a huge fix that the state can make. All right, and then Ryan says, Georgia has $9 billion in infrastructure backlog that needs to be addressed. What are your thoughts on that?
That's not surprising to me at all. There is a lot of parts. So our parts, third fastest growing district, we don't see a whole lot of that. And maybe when you get towards Effingham backside, you'll see it a little bit. But definitely, it's like Ryan lives in really, really rural Georgia. And they got this is still, you're talking about dirt roads. You're still talking about wooden pipes in the ground. You're still talking about you're still talking about some old school infrastructure. I think the last Georgia infrastructure boom was like the 70s, 80s. And a lot of that's still in the ground today, still running water through, a lot of cast iron pipes still on the ground. And so, I definitely agree with Ryan. How we do that, though, is definitely going to take, it's going to take, like I said, getting us to flip the 91 and finally putting in that effort. One of the big issues that I always kind of make around here, living on the coast for us is I'm like, we know a hurricane usually comes once a year. We got blessed, last year we didn't get a hurricane. That's great. But every time we usually get one, especially if it's really bad, we're like, oh, we lost power again. Oh, this happened. Oh, I'm like, we know they're coming. Why are we not building preparation for it? If we know, like I live in a newer neighborhood, so all of our sites are underneath the ground. So when we talk about, older infrastructure backlogs, a lot of this stuff, especially on our side, we know it's going to cost, millions of dollars to repair it every single time it happens. Then why are we not investing the money to just go ahead and bury them in the ground? Bury the power lines, get it all on the ground. One, that's safety for us. So if someone, we've all seen happen where someone hits a pole and then boom, power's gone. It happens.
I was out for a week after I was in Virginia and a hurricane came.
Yeah.
And we were out a week with just a generator because the tree fell on the power line.
Yeah. Love a good power line.
But like I said, that's stuff that's going on. And like I said, it's also holding, the richest Georgians accountable as well, to pay their fair share. Someone was saying if you got them to pay 5% of the top earners of Georgia pay 5%, that would literally fund majority of our projects here in Georgia. And so there's definitely discussions about that too. I've definitely heard that from other Democrats. Maybe that's kind of their goal. Like I said, getting to 91 at the end of the day is the biggest hurdle here. We know state Senate, we're probably not going to end up getting. In governor, it's a toss-up coin. That's going to be an interesting day. We're going to see who puts in the work, who's going to earn Georgian voters, who's going to be out there, who's going to be listening. It's going to take, whoever, I don't know who, I know there's a couple Republicans on here. I know there's a couple Democrats on here. It's also going to turn you up to vote, you showing up, you picking the governor that you want, and that's also going to be a big ticket item.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm hoping that most people on here watching are starting to realize that party lines is not all it's cracked up to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sometimes the best candidate is the best candidate. I think that over time, it, maybe in the beginning it served its purpose, but now it is just used against us as a people. So it's very, very frustrating. But anyway, so Brandon, go back to the chat. I'm sorry.
Thank you for your rant.
I just had to say something real quick about it.
So we have another question. So what benefits do you plan to bring to the table to help children in our communities? This district seems to lack childcare, schools, and entertainment.
Yeah, no. One of the first things I really would like to, and I would say first thing, one of the things I'd like to get done, everybody knows my first thing. One of the things I'd like to get done is tell developers, whether I do it through the state or I guess you could say influence local ordinances to go, hey guys, every development that gets built, you need to start building parks in these developments. Like I live in the Highlands, and we have like that little community center, but that's kind of it. We don't really have, I at least remember growing up, or working on different jobs where a lot of other states, I've worked all across the country, and a lot of places they require developers to build parks. So like for every 5 acres they build, they have to build an acre of a park.
Really?
So yeah. So it's like I remember walking through neighborhoods where they would just be like, oh yeah, one block has a park, and the next block has a park, next block has a. So it's every other block has a park on it. Like it's mandated they must build a park with it. And as we're talking, I understand, talk to a lot of the youth in this district. They're like, there is nothing to do. In reality, there really isn't. I've been to a couple of city council meetings, and one of the things that just like, oh, these young people get in our way, messing with our golf course, getting this, and they're vandalizing. I'm like, well, give them something to do.
Right.
You get mad at them when they're out in public. You call the police on them when they do something wrong. They're too rowdy. I don't know. I always remember, I'm not going to say what we used to do. I remember we used to have those grouchy neighbors, and, we used to be painting the butt kids, but I mean, we kind of, it's everything's so serious now. And I feel bad for the younger generations, especially the ones that are growing up right now, where they feel like, kids aren't outside. Okay, they go outside, then you call the police, you blame them, they're destroying stuff. They give them something to do. So yeah, no, trying to make sure that we bring more parks into the area. I know they're going to build the amphitheater. I know it's going to have big old soccer. I think it has a big old soccer park in there too. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more, families going out and doing stuff. And the parks that are in my district are kind of out of reach. It's not like walking distance for a lot of these kids. It is a journey to get to a park. And that's something I've been noticing too, because, as I'm trying to find spaces, I'm like, oh, it's kind of a walk. Like, if we live in Old Port Wentworth, yeah, you can walk to the parks and you can do stuff. But majority of my district, there's not a whole lot for these kids to do.
My favorite thing is parks. They say parks and they put a bench and then maybe
They put a grass field and a bench. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, no. Yeah,
Here's
you're gonna put a slide. Yeah, you're gonna put a little jungle gym. Yeah, you're gonna do something. Come on now. Yeah.
Well, I'm happy that they're actually trying to connect the city with that walkway. So, I mean, you should be able to ride a bike to Anchor Park from anywhere in the cities. That's the goal that the city has. Mm-hmm. So I'm very, very interested to see how that goes.
Who's riding a bike in this heat? Who's riding a bike in this heat?
Bro, when I was a kid, heat didn't matter. I was just out there. I know. I was just there. I mean, it's like, oh, it's hot. I don't care. I'm outside. I don't want to be in the house. They made me work when I was home.
We weren't allowed to be inside.
Exactly. So, all right, let's get back to the chat. So here's another question. All right, and read it. So we're all reading together. How do you feel about the current property tax battle going on in session right now? And what is a good plan in your mind?
Oh, that's a tough one. So, like I said, there's been a lot of arguing back and forth, and we talked about that a second ago, where Republicans are just making it seem as though Democrats just don't want to cut property taxes. They just want to let you guys suffer, but it's just not that black and white. Like I said, even if you get it, it won't happen until 28, and that's only if it passes. It's very complicated. It's done on that on purpose. What we really need to do, of course, is still kind of voting on it. I think as Georgians, we definitely need to take a look. Of course, you've got the homestead exemption. But a lot of people still don't feel like that's working in their favor. That's been one that keeps going back and forth in my district. They're like, oh, we have it, but it's still like a lot, One of the things I really want to try to figure out how to do is cut it at least in half. Can we get it to half? My family pays $10,000 for their house a year in property taxes. We pay $10,000. Yeah, we live in Channel. We pay $10,000 a year in property taxes. $5,000 seems a little bit more fair to me. But of course, trying to figure out how we end up, what did I say the other day? I said, you kind of cut off your hand to cut off your arm. So when I cut off, when I slice it in half, what do I have to cut off here to be able to pay it back? And that's something I'm still trying to figure out, whether it is through the sales tax, whether it is through, one person was like, well, why don't we try to use, what do they call it? Tourism tax. I said that works kind of maybe in Chatham and Atlanta, but that doesn't really work anywhere else, where they're trying to get more money out of tourism. I said, we're not Florida. And so, because they'll be like, well, Florida's doing this. I'm like, yeah, but they also get millions of dollars like a week, from tourism versus we're not. Our tourism's about right now. It'll slow down July, August, September. We'll see it slow. It might pick back up in the winter. If we get that pretty snow again, people are like, oh my gosh, look at old Savannah snowing. But, we don't have constant tourism either. And so I was trying to figure out, I've heard, bracketeering, like I said, if your house is worth more than $1 million, you pay a full percentage. And then as we go lower, you pay less and less. So I'm not a fan. I'm not opposed to that either, where we just do brackets. If your house is worth this much, this is how much you're paying. Because if you can afford an $800,000 house, that's a different story.
Well, this isn't the FIFA World Cup here, okay? People's lives. So we have more comments. So obviously, Scott owns like a majority, a large majority.
Yeah,
property here, and all of these companies or businesses that get those massive tax breaks, but they're destroying our roads, our infrastructure, not paying for it. We ultimately end up paying for it with our taxes. Like, how do you feel when it comes to things of that nature that don't have to pay into taxes, but don't actually bring much but disruption to the
like I said, whether it was data centers, warehouses, or even SCAD, I mean, you want to make the investment, your investment, pay for it. You don't need to use taxpayer money. You don't need land deals. You don't need, just do your fair share, pay like everybody else. If I want to open up a business, I'm not getting nothing special out of it. I'm going to have to pay to get everything done, and it ain't fair if just because you're a multi-million-dollar corporation, you get to use taxpayer funding to do that. That isn't fair. No. Like I said, I understand there's bonds and there's loans, and that's a whole different story in itself. If you're like, hey, I want to take a city loan out because you can get better interest. If the city's willing to take that task, willing to take that risk, that's a different discussion. Not a whole lot, but at state level, no, we're not giving you're not getting money from me. That's all I'll say. You're not getting money from me. You can try to convince these other legislators, but that's my hard stance on that. You're not getting money out of me.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this question. District 161 is currently represented by a Republican, and the Georgia legislature has been controlled by Republicans. So if you're elected as a Democrat, you may enter the Capitol without seniority, committee position, or a majority part party relationship that Bill Hitchens has. So what would you prevent District 161 from losing influence? How would you prevent 161 from losing influence?
One thing that was kind of funny, so of course, I'll be a freshman Democrat. He's a senior. I'll be a freshman Democrat. One of the things I say is this isn't, it's about getting things done. It isn't about having the longest resume or the longest time in service. It's about building relationships and showing up, being active in our community. It's willing to work with anybody. Like this year, it's going to be 50-50, 51-49. Like it's going to be a really, really, tight house. And that's something that we're going to have to realize, whether you're Republican or Democrat, legislators, we're going to have to work together this year. And going into next year, because it's going to be tight. There's going to be more Democrats, at the end of the day. They're already expecting it. We know it. We just don't know the percentage of it. But it's, whether, like I said, whether Republicans have one more 91 or 92 or Democrats have not, 92, it's, and that'll get complicated too itself, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. It's being active. One of the things I thought was hilarious, when I was asking, I was asking legislators, do you know Bill Hitchens? Do you know Bill Hitchens? Do you know Bill Hitchens? I asked tons of them when I was at the Capitol, from Democrat to Republican. And they're like, who? Who's that? Isn't that guy that sits on, in the corner? Like they had to remember who he was because he's just not active in there. I mean, when you see him, when they have all the Republicans stand up at, all on the staircase and they all stand together, he's hardly ever there. He kind of goes to his office, he hides. Well, yeah, no, like you'll see a couple here and there, like when they did the redistricting stuff, he was up there. But majority of times when I'm watching them, he's hardly ever standing with the Republicans. So Republicans don't know who he is. Democrats definitely don't know who he is. And if they do, it's the guy who sits in the corner over there. That's not, you can have the seniority all you want. If you're not using it, then you're, like I said, you're just a seat, you're just a yes man. You're, like I said earlier, you're a Walmart greeter, handing out your sticker. And that isn't fair to my people in my district. It's time, like I said, back to my statement earlier, you're 80, you put in your time of work, you've got your pensions, you've got your 5 houses, go retire.
There you go. There you go.
The shade. So I'm curious. So like would you vote against your party leadership if the people of the district?
That's always been one. That's something I've been asked before. They said, well, say the Democrats really want this to get passed, and we're saying we're at a tight house. And I said, if I'm here in majority of my district, that's something where I have to host town halls. I might even come back and be like, I've got to come and, I've got to talk to my people. And there's a lot of times where we can't, you can't say, I need to talk to my constituents. I need to figure this out. That's something I hope to work with you guys. You guys are my constituents as well, the people that are also watching. I want to work with you. I want to let you know, here's what's going on, what's going on, how do we feel about community leaders? Because our community is like you, Patrick, and you guys, you guys are community leaders. You guys know what a lot of times people are feeling. And it's stuff like that where I want to work with you guys going, hey, this data center thing, how are we feeling about this? Oh, the community hates it. Oh, hey, these top property taxes, people want to get them cut in half or removed. Okay, cool. Well, we might end up doing this. How they fit, just trying to understand through community leaders, through, the local ordinances, trying to represent you guys the best I can. If I have to vote against party lines, of course, at the end of the day, if I feel like it's going to hurt my district, then obviously I'm not going to support it. I'm not going to hurt my people. I understand I'll take the backlash. I'll take, hell, he's a terrible person and whatever, but I'm not always supposed to 100% agree with you. If I 100% agree with Democratic every single time, then I'm just as bad as Bill Hitchens voting yes every single time for the Republicans.
Absolutely.
My job is to represent you all, not the party. I understand the party and it can have influence. They can talk with you, and I get it. You know what I mean? You guys know where I stand on a lot of issues, but I'm not going to be like Bill that just yes to every single thing.
Okay, I want to give you an opportunity to make a comparison directly.
Okay.
So what is the strongest argument for reelecting Bill Hitchens? And after acknowledging that argument, why should an undecided voter still choose you?
Woo, that's definitely a talk one. The best argument for Hitchens, of course, they will always be experience. Like I said, GSP, we're talking about, military service, he's been there for a long time, something to do with the FBI. Like, he's up there. He's definitely up there. He knows what he's doing, and nobody can take that away from him. But experience only matters if it's producing results. I'm offering energy. I'm offering accessibility. I'm trying to be here for my constituents, a new voice for us. At the end of the day, if you're happy with the direction the district's going, then vote for Bill again. But if you want change, if you want somebody to listen, if you want somebody to be there, if you want somebody you can text, call, email, then I'm asking for your vote. You know, I feel as though, this district needs change. Like I said, people upset with Port Wentworth over the city council. People are upset over Pooler city council. People are upset over Rincon, the county commissioners on both sides. My job is to represent y'all. And of course, that includes elected officials too, who are.
Are you reading over the chats?
David is, yeah.
He's all into the chat. Are you into the chats? he's reading all the chat stuff. Come on, David.
Yeah. Now, like I said, at the end of the day, I mean, that's my biggest thing is just being here for my constituents. That's something I care very deeply to my heart. That's something I want to try to do every day. And you realize that as we go canvassing, I'm kind of a bigger guy. You can see this double chin. I said, by the time my campaign season, I'm kind of hoping this is gone after all that walking.
There you go.
So hopefully I'll be able to knock on your doors, give you some signs, tell me what's going on. Like I said, every voter has a different issue. As we're reading tonight in these comments, everybody thinks something different, whether it's abortion, whether it's taxes, whether it's, business owners, whether it's dealing with the city council, whether it's dealing with data centers. Everyone's got something that we really, really care about. For some people, it's just as simple as, oh, I tried to go fishing at the dock. The dock's broke. They haven't fixed it. Can you get state funding? 21 traffic. You know what I mean? There's some people are single issue voters. So people have 20 things they want to talk about. And that's my job, is to sit there, shut up, and listen.
Fishing is important.
I love fishing. Yeah, I love fishing. Yeah.
You shouldn't have to have a license to do it either. So we have another Sean question.
Okay.
So he said, what's the plan for bringing more state funding to Port Wentworth?
So that's been kind of an interesting one. As I've been talking with people in Port Wentworth, Bill Hitchens for the last couple of years has been ignoring it. When we're looking at his bills and stuff like that, you'll see Effingham, you'll see Chatham County, you'll see Pooler, you'll see Rincon, but you see nothing for the people of Port Wentworth. And that's something I'll definitely change really, really quickly is, hey, 21, they're finally getting this done. And I can guarantee you, it wasn't because he sat there going, woo. I can guarantee you he got tired of just the constant parading of 21, because this is, the state's road. And so getting that expanded, of course, whether it is, state funding to represent Port Wentworth. Port Wentworth, of course, had some issues a couple of years ago that people know about. And, making sure the people of Port Wentworth feel welcome back at the state capitol. Make sure they're welcome to come visit us. I want to have tours of my office. Come on down. Come look at, whether it's the city officials or whether it's the residents. I just want to make sure that we can work together, get more funding towards the city if it needs it, what it's going to be used for and stuff like that. And just transparency, being there, being transparent, and just being a good voice for the people of Port Wentworth.
Okay, so, and he also wants to know if you're going to advocate for bills that would help Port Wentworth. I assume that you are going to.
Yeah. As long as they help the people of Port Wentworth and the people of Port Wentworth are like, yeah, this is great, then obviously, yeah.
Okay. Well, we got a new segment that Brandon's going to run this. I'm excited about it. But before we do the new segment, we want to look, is experience or fresh perspective right now? Fresh perspective is winning in the chat. You still got time to vote. So vote. Also, if you're on here watching, hit the like button, share button, help David out. The more people that see this video, the more it helps them out. So share it out to all your friends. All right, Brandon, are you ready for this? I'm excited. I'm excited for this new exclusive tonight.
Yeah, well, I kept seeing it on a bunch of podcasts that I watch, and it's kind of fun. It's not aggressive, but it's fun. But the rapid fire questions, so we'll give you 30 seconds. You get one word answers, no filibusters allowed. You know what I mean? So the goal is not to catch anyone off guard. It's to find out what issues and priorities and ideas rise to the top when you don't have time to overthink it. You know what I mean? So we're going to put 30 seconds on the clock.
Hold on. Gotta tell me when.
Ready, steady.
One word answers. Here we go.
One word. Ready, steady, go. What's the biggest challenge facing District 161 right now?
Data centers.
Most overlooked issue.
Traffic.
One thing you agree with Bill Hitchens on.
Lowering property taxes.
One thing you disagree with him on.
Data centers.
Most misunderstood thing about David Dillie.
I don't know.
Wah, wah, wah. That's good.
Data centers, I love it. Traffic, yes.
You got 2 points from Patrick. You said data centers twice.
There you go. All right.
They would be his Family Feud answers.
Yeah, if you gave me if it wasn't being timed, I probably could have come up with something a little more creative. But I was like, yeah, that one, sure.
No, it's more fun this way.
Exactly.
Okay, so you've made it through that 30 seconds, which sorry about that, but thank you for being my guinea pig.
Of course.
So as a reward, we are giving you the social media deluxe package, which is a whole minute. You get 60 seconds because obviously that's like reels and shorts gold. So you're welcome. Put on your advertisement.
Oh, okay,
So you ready? So what you got 60 seconds, Patrick? Do your thing.
What?
Just
I
kidding.
didn't prepare for 60 seconds.
I know.
Okay, I got you.
We're not going to time you. This is just more so make it 60 seconds so we can cut it. And it won't be so difficult to cut it for our reels, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you say to the voter that is sitting at home right now? They've voted Republican before. They've voted Democrat before, or probably not at all. Why should they come out and vote for David Dillie?
Good. One of the biggest things I would tell voters why you should be voting for David Dillie. Oh,
stop.
You got me there now. Now, what I would tell constituents why you should not be silly and vote for Dillie is I'm not a lot of these people up there that are rich. You know, I come from a very simple family. You know, my father owns a local business here. My family owns a farm in the district. You know, myself, I work, mostly do the trades. And so I'm nobody fancy. You know, I work the paycheck. It's usually gone by the end of the week after every bill comes in. You know, you're left with maybe $100, $200 left if you're lucky. You know, and that's something that we're feeling as a generation, as a young person myself. You know, the bills that I decide on the House floor, I will feel. Whether I vote for good bills or bad bills or bills that, could who knows what could happen in the future, and that's something that I will feel myself, versus, we talk about Bill, yeah, that I try to say that's the way possible. I want nothing bad to happen, but I don't think he'll feel the conflicts of the bills that he will pass. I'll see the consequences, I'll see the positives, I'll see the negatives, and that's something that I have to decide with. And so I just want to be there, I want to represent, and I hope I can earn your vote.
Yeah, just 60 seconds, David.
Oh, shit. Did I go over? Oh, try not to.
I'm just kidding. You did great. Good job.
Well, David, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us about everything. I know it's a little bit harder. I would say, after listening to you, I mean, I like fighters. You know what I'm saying? I like someone that's going to go learn. I don't expect you to know everything up front. I've been in positions before in the military where I didn't know what the hell I was doing. They just threw me into the fire and they're like, go. And he's like a fire hose drinking through that thing. But eventually, if you got a good heart and you're willing to do what is right for the people, then it doesn't, you're going to learn it, do your best. And that's all anybody can ask. Of course, I don't know if you know this, we're going to have Bill Hitchens on. He decided to come on. So he's going to show up.
Oh, that's going to be fun. Oh, I can't wait, y'all. I can't wait.
How that goes. So I appreciate you coming. And one last thing, anything you want to say before we let you go on the campaign? Is there any campaign stops you want to talk about, or anything you want to talk about?
Just keep an eye out. We're going to be hosting some events. We're trying to get it all situated. We're going to do some fishing with me, so you can come down. We'll go fishing. We're trying to maybe do like a cigar thing where we go to, sit down, smoke some cigars somewhere, come chit chat. We just want to try to be more active in our community. You'll see me host some more stuff in Port Wentworth. I'm bringing some events in Rincon. If you guys have any churches you guys go to, you guys want to invite me to, I'm starting to try to get to more churches every week. So I hope to be active. I hope you see me around. I'll be at the Rincon Parade this Saturday, so I hope to see you guys there. And I'm excited, y'all.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
We're excited for you.
Anything else?
No, that was it. That was a lot in the chat. We really appreciate you guys. That was a lot. I was struggling to keep up, but I think I did okay.
You did good.
And like I said, I wish I could have answered every question a little bit better. There were some questions that I definitely need to learn more, and that's something as I go through this campaign, I hope to be able to do. I'm not a master of everything, and that's something I hope constituents can agree with. I'd rather be honest and not try to create some phony little thing or try to, there's some issues I'm still learning, still understanding about.
There's enough phony out there, man. There's enough phony. We don't need phony anymore. I don't think anybody wants phony anymore.
No fake friends. No.
But David, I appreciate it once again. And like I said, if you like David Dillie, you support him, share this video out to your friends, family, let everybody you know in his voting district that you will support Dillie. Share this video out. We're going to be having a bunch of shorts and stuff, so stay tuned to my YouTube channel, Facebook page. You can share. I'll make it easy for you to share out, these 1 minute clips that Brandon tried to help.
1 minute, 60 seconds.
No, I appreciate it, y'all. I appreciate what you guys are doing. I can't wait to see what you guys do with Bill Hitchens. One thing I ask for the viewers, if you can, please donate to daviddillie.com. Bill Hitchens has a bunch of corporate donors. I'm fighting against a machine, and I definitely, I'm going to have the body. I'm going to have the people with me, but it also takes money to pay for signs and cards and all that. So any donations you can make, 5, 10, 25, well, the max donation is $3,300. Not saying that's going to happen, but yeah, that is the max, anything helps. It really, really does. And so,
David, can you put that in the chat right now while you're just type it right there in the chat, and then also I will put all that. I'll put that information down in my description for you so you can have it. But just so that I can make sure I have the right one. So,
one second. I'm putting it in the chat. It says I have to do something real quickly.
Okay, that's fine. That's cool. So, I'm excited. If you guys have not checked out, Bill Hitchens is going to come on. I'm not sure yet. We're trying to get Keisha Lansbottom. We're trying to get all of the people that you want to talk to. I know Amanda's going to come back on, but it's trying to get these people locked down because they just did the primaries and all that kind of stuff. So people kind of rolling it back a little bit for a second. So we're going to get them on that.
Amp it up.
They're just trying to relax for a second.
I wouldn't let me do it, but that's all right. Again, it's David Dillie, DILLIE.com.
We'll put it in the descriptions.
Yeah.
We'll put it in the description.
Perfect.
But I appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, y'all. It was good. It was a good time. I love the tough questions. I hope to be back on before Election Day.
All right. If you want to come back on, we'll get you back on right before then, okay?
Appreciate it. Well, thank you.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later. All right. Well, that's a good chat, buddy.
Yeah. There's a lot of people.
How did you think the rapid fire worked?
Put it
in the chat. What do you think about the rapid fire?
Do we need another rule like you can't repeat?
I don't know.
For a dang
it's not going to get harder.
Well, I know. But you can tell that data center, it came up twice. So it's a big, important thing. It's something that knee-jerk reaction. It's not.
Bill Hitchens says he wants data centers. Guess who I'm voting for?
Not.
I'm just saying.
No, but it's supposed to bring that what you actually care about. But yes, it's hard to one word. But I thought it was good. No double answers.
Jennifer liked it. She liked the rapid fire.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jennifer, for joining. Thank you, Savannah's favorite food enthusiast. We didn't even get to anything he said. Thank you, Tony, so much. Hello, y'all. We had a bunch of new people on here, didn't we?
He didn't compliment me. Why would I read his comments?
That's just true. This is true. Julia, thank you for coming on. Sean Wanderwaller, thank you for coming on. I appreciate that. Crystal, thank you.
Yeah,
Trash Jenga.
That's why I didn't say it. That's why I didn't say it.
Pamela, thank you. Ivy, thank you. So I just want to say thank you all for coming on and watching our show. I really appreciate it. And then I can't wait to see you guys next week. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.